Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, your business journey with Clarita, the podcast where we will discuss valuable insights, resources, and motivation to fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Let's build a supportive community together. Subscribe now to Begin, Build, Blossom, and let's embark on your business journey. Good day. Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Begin, Build, Blossom. And we are so happy that you've decided to join us again. Thank you so much. We are going to go ahead and introduce our guest this morning. Today we have with us Shanita Joy Murray. She is certified as a birth and postpartum doula, as well as a childbirth and perinatal nutrition educator. She is also a registered nurse. She is an evidence-based birth instructor, teaching private sessions virtually. As a certified breastfeeding counselor, she is currently studying to become an internationally board-certified lactation consultant. Her background includes over 4,000 hours of delivery, operating room or recovery room, and breastfeeding experience. In addition, she is trained in home birthing and she is specialized in assisting high risk and advanced maternal age pregnancies, vaginal birth after cesarean, twin births, waterbirths, stillbirths, and neonatal intensive care unit graduate postpartum clients. As a practicing registered nurse at the Birth Center of New Jersey, she is also skilled in low intervention and natural births in various settings. Lastly, she is certified in neonatal, pediatric, and adult CPR. She is an advocate for all women, especially those in the Black community, as maternal mortality disparities are great. Shanita mentioned that we are often unaware of our baseline health information, which, in combination with systematic racism in healthcare, yields very poor outcomes. Shanita invests time into teaching her clients practical ways to prevent and recognize conditions of pregnancy, as well as helping them understand the changes occurring within their bodies during the process. Welcome, Shanita.
Thank you so much for having me, Clarita.
Yes, I'm very, very happy to have you. So, as you know, on this podcast called Begin, Build, Blossom, so we will be going through those different stages of business.
hmm
Before we do that, we're going to just get to know you a little better.
Sounds good.
Let's do that. Yes. So, we're looking for two words to start off. One word that describes you now, and one word you would have used to describe yourself as a child.
Okay, now resilient.
Mm-hmm.
I would use that to describe myself as a child too, but I'm gonna listen to what you said because you said two words. So, as a child, I would say precocious. I was very much that little old soul and just, I don't know, in the know, as I like to say.
Nice, nice. Great. Thanks for sharing that with us. We are now going to move on to a section we call rapid fire. So during this time, we're going to ask you some questions. We're hoping for quick responses, and this is an opportunity to get to know you better. So let's get started with that. What is the name of your business? And what do you do?
So, choosing joy, and I am a doula, a childbirth educator, and a lactation specialist. Basically, I am working with moms throughout the continuum of antepartum all the way through postpartum. So, I like to consider myself a one-stop shop in that I'm able to help you from, being there for the labor, the delivery, pre that, the education process, all the way through to overnight nurse if you need help with lactation, things of that nature. Just areas that I feel like that continuum, you need continuity. And I like to be able to provide that for women.
Great. I'm so glad that that is available. And how many years have you been in business?
I've been in business for 3 years now.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And are you full time or part time?
I'm full time. When I used to get asked this question, I was like, "Am I full time?" I feel like I'm full time everything: wife, mom, doula.
Mm-hmm.
I also work at the birth center, so I'm on call there, and that's a minimum of 4 shifts. But I feel like I'm full time with everything, honestly. But yes.
Okay, great. And I know you mentioned that you also work in other places, but doing the same thing that you do in your business. But I was just wondering, before you actually started your business, did you do anything else, like anything different?
So it's kind of tied in. I am a registered nurse. Went into nursing with the mindset of, okay, I'm going into nursing to be in women's health. I kind of niched down from wanting to be an OBGYN, and then I was like, okay, let me do some more research. I want to be around for my kids. I don't want to have to be being called out my bed in the middle of the night. Fun fact, I'm
Mm-hmm.
being called out my bed in the middle of the night anyway. So there's that. But the level of responsibility is different. So from there, I went on to graduate nursing school. I worked in just a regular staff RN, working kind of like, it was kind of like the blueprint. My mom was a nurse. So you kind of become a
Mm.
nurse, you go into the hospital, you work as a staff RN, and then you specialize. It took me 8 years to get into labor and delivery. And then that's where I was prior to forming the business.
Okay, wow. What is one of the highest highs you would say that you've had in business so far?
One of the highest highs is I have a client that she was my daughter's speech therapist. My youngest daughter was having some issues with speech in the beginning of, I want to say 2020, 2021. So we went through early intervention, and I ended up meeting with a separate speech therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up being her doula. And she was my first VBAC vaginal birth after cesarean, my first successful. So I had, I believe it was one attempt prior to that, and it was in the same month. So
Mm-hmm.
my first attempt didn't go well, but my second with her was awesome. And we were like down to the wire. The day she went into labor, she was on the schedule for a C-section that day.
Oh,
And
wow.
I told her to use a breast pump, and she did. And she went into labor. When she got there, she was about 4 or 5 centimeters. And we had a VBAC, and that baby was 9 pounds and some odd ounces, but we did it.
Okay. So if you can let us know what VBAC means for those who don't know. And also if you can touch on you said attempt. When you said second attempt, you mean second attempt with the same client?
So it was my second attempt with a client. So
Ah.
I kind of tend to like look at little milestones for choosing joy. My first international client, or my first
Mm-hmm.
mom that was over 40, things like that. So she was
Mm-hmm.
my second attempt at a vaginal birth after cesarean. My first did end up being a C-section, but it's all,
Oh.
it's all good. We did our best. But with this mom, it was
Mm-hmm.
so special because we literally were down to the wire, and it seemed like the team was on board initially, but then we were getting a lot of pushback, and we were like the
Mm-hmm.
only two that kind of believed that it could happen. But so VBAC is vaginal birth after cesarean section,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that's really becoming a lot more popular now. We're not in the days of, okay, you have one C-section and then you just continue to have them. You can if you choose, but there's other options. So it was nice to be able to meet that milestone with her. And she's already special to me. So
Oh, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Oh my gosh. I can imagine how happy you all must have been when, it happens. And you mentioned about the breast pump. So I hope we talk about that later, even though it's in an after session. Because I want to know more about how breast pump helps with that. That's very interesting. For this section, let's continue with on the flip side of that. Can you tell us one of your lowest moments, probably, since starting your business?
one of my lowest moments, I want to say my first client that had a stillbirth. I've only had one, but and they're special to me as well. So I'm a Gemini, they're both Gemini. So that was kind of like,
Oh.
oh, nice, and then you just bond with your clients. You build a rapport with them and things of that nature. And this was even before I was able to do my prenatals with her. It was, I think, around 20 weeks, a little bit after 20 weeks. And she ended up having issues with preeclampsia. It was so severe that by the time they ended up getting to the hospital, the baby was still alive, but I believe sometime in that time period, prior to her delivering the baby, did pass away. So that was tough. But I love that I call myself a professional griever. So I love that I am not afraid of grief. I don't feel like I have to say something. I lost both of my parents. So my dad when I was 12, my mother when I was I think I was about 30, maybe 31. But I'm not a stranger to grief. So it was not uncomfortable for me. It was
Wow.
just sad, but I'm glad that I was able to listen and just kind of be there and not feel like that awkwardness that people feel around grief.
Yeah, well, I'm glad they had you because I'm listening to it and I'm not even sure how I don't know, I would not know what to do in this situation. So I'm glad they had you to help them. That I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But they went on to have a baby almost a year to the date.
Oh.
She is well. She is thriving. All is well. The strength of that mom and
Mhm.
dad was just amazing. So fortunately, they did have that loss, but the way that they handled it was it was beautiful. And now they have their little girl.
Oh, and you helped them with that pregnancy?
Yes, yes, I did. And then I also did some postpartum work with them. So that was awesome.
That's absolutely beautiful. And is there a book that you'd recommend that our listeners read?
I guess I want to say maybe as of 2017, just kind of getting into more reading the self help books. And
Mhm.
I came across an author named Ty Alexander. She's my
Mhm.
auntie in my head. And she has a book called Things I Wish I Knew Before My Mom Died.
Mhm.
That book helped me so much after my mom passed away. I really should just read it again. It was just such a good, it was an easy read. It was such a
Mhm.
relatable read.
Right.
It was such a good book. I love it. I recommend it to anyone that is dealing with maybe a parent that's, sick or
Mhm.
maybe a terminal diagnosis. Even just kind of like in prep, God forbid if that's, what the prognosis is, but definitely if you've lost a parent, it was an awesome read.
Thanks for sharing that with us. You know what I like about this? I'm actually getting to add books to my list, and I plan to get through them because if you mentioned it, out of all the books out there, if you mention that one book, I think it's worth reading. So I will definitely take a look at it. So thanks so much for sharing that with us. So we'll now transition to the begin segment. And I'm wondering, do you remember the first time you actually thought of starting a business?
I do not, because I clearly remember saying, I don't want to run a business. I will never run a literally. I wish my husband was here so he could tell you this because he recalls it for me sometimes. I think what ended up happening was when I left labor and delivery and I did start taking the classes to become a doula.
Mm-hmm.
I think just in taking the classes, we did go over a little bit of business structure and things of that nature. And so I just started thinking like, oh, do I want to be in an agency? Do I want to be on my own? I believe I had the name already. Joy is my middle name, so that was real simple. But yeah, honestly, I was that girl that was just like, absolutely not me, can't do it.
Mm-hmm. So I know you said you started taking classes, but what within that process changed for you to make you actually go ahead and start your own business?
I think it was just looking at the options of being in an agency, running my own business. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
very autonomous kind of a being. I like doing my own thing. I like doing
Mm-hmm.
things my way. And it just kind of made sense to me. It was like, okay, form the business. You're doing this, right? You're helping
Mm-hmm.
people and you're already giving your advice and doing these things and helping with lactation. You're just not doing it under the guise of a business. So you know what?
Right.
You got these options, form the business.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Well, I'm glad that you did. And I'm sure your clients are very, very happy that you did. Can you tell us about what in your upbringing has led to where you are now in your journey? I know you mentioned your mom was a nurse, so I'm thinking that's a start, but tell us a little bit more.
So it is very funny because I always say everything good about me is because of my parents. I really had such wonderful, wonderful parents. They really made me feel like I could do anything, like anything. And I don't know, maybe sometimes that's a bad thing because I'm like, I can do anything. I can have anything I want. But that just always stuck with me. I watched them both work hard. My dad
Mhm.
was a steam fitter, a construction worker. My mom was a registered nurse, and she basically climbed kind of like from CNA to so a certified nursing assistant to an LPN, licensed practical nurse. She became a
Mhm.
RN, a registered nurse. She had me. She took a lot of time off. She went back to preschool with me.
Oh.
Yeah, she was my cook at the preschool.
Oh.
So it was sweet. It was really sweet. But then she ended up going into school nursing. She wanted to have a schedule similar to mine. And then after my dad passed, that was really beneficial. So I just watched her go for her certified school nursing degree. I watched her, work more than one job while my brother was in college. I have an older brother. He is 10 and a half years older than me. So I just watched her do things while all these other things were going on. I watched her work while my dad was sick.
Mhm.
And then long, long, long time down the line, she decided at about 62, I want to say, to go get her master's. So
Oh,
she completed her
wow.
master's at 64. But it was just always I always saw progression. I always saw ambition in my mom. And I saw the same in my dad. My dad was a kind-hearted person, a good person, just always willing to help somebody. They were very involved in the church.
Mhm.
But he was like the person that would get off work and he would be, mowing the lawn at the church, going to somebody's house, going to dig older people at the church out in the snow. So I just saw goodness and ambition and I followed it.
Nice. Sounds like there was a lot of service there too, and that's kind of what you're doing too. A lot of
Definitely.
service is involved in what you're doing. It's really nice that as parents, we really are the example for our kids. They learn at home before they learn anywhere else. Yeah, I remember actually I have a 4-year old myself. And when she was born, I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is like the first set of people she sees in the whole world.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, so that carries over that we've the first everything to them, right? So I'm really glad that you learned all this from your parents. And when you decided to start the business, what actual steps did you take, like in terms of to make it official?
So my first step was I went to my husband because I knew he had formed a LLC. He's a truck driver and he wanted to be an owner operator. So I went to him. I'm like, hey, how am I supposed to do this? Literally out the blue, just randomly, March, I want to say 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I was talking to him about it, and I'm like, well, how much does it cost? Blah, blah, blah. And I remember it like yesterday. I was just in the room, and I'm like, you know what? I have it. I'm just gonna do it. So I used a site called Inkfile. Inkfile was able to get the formation documents and get me the EIN number and just the basics of, getting registered as a business, as a LLC. I did that. And then I just kind of sat back. So I just had this LLC formation and it was like, okay, I'm finishing my classes up, but I wasn't really doing anything at first.
Nice, nice. And how did you get your first clients for your LLC?
My first client, so after I started being plugged by my friends, just in random places, people looking for doulas, I said, all right, you need to make a website. And one of my really close friends that lives right around the corner, well, her parents do now, her dad is in tech and he helped me out getting me a page started.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of put it out there, put the page out there, and started doing a Facebook, page and supporting pages. So it's like, okay, so there's other documentation that you are, functioning and in business. So I did that. My first client booked a consultation. I remember it like yesterday. I was telling my oldest daughter about it. I'm like, oh, I got my first consultation. Doesn't show up. I'm like,
Uh-oh.
but then I did hear from her. She's pregnant. She fell asleep, like pregnant women do. Okay, she was
Mm-hmm.
tired, so no big deal. We did end up talking. I did not book her, but a few months after that, someone else reached out to me, and so I ended up booking my first client in 2022. I believe what was that? I want to say maybe. January of 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is history.
Wow. And then that brings us to building. So you had that first client, and the people keep coming through referrals or through the website. How did you continue to have even more clients?
So after that, I started to realize that once they were plugging me and they were seeing that, okay, there's a website behind this. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to the website. Okay, great. She's got everything laid out. I believe not too shortly after that, it wasn't too far after that, I invested in upgrading my website.
Mm,
And when I upgraded that website, things took off. I didn't mention this. So in 2021, I joined the National Black Doula Association.
mm-hmm.
And so that listed me in the registry, and I was getting inquiries through there. So that is how the first client that I booked ended up finding me on the National Black Doula Association. So they were very pivotal in my startup, and I
Mm-hmm.
also sought mentorship through them as well.
Okay, great. And I'm looking at your website right now, and there's this little baby. Oh my gosh,
How beautiful.
I'm having baby fever over there, over here, looking at him.
Don't even mention it.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned networking through the National Association
Yes.
and also mentoring. Is that huge, you think, in helping you build your business?
Absolutely. The networking just from even having an association to go to for Black people. I was trained in International Doula Institute's program. I loved it. I was able to get work on multiple certifications at a time, and I was able to do it on my own time, self paced. So
Mm-hmm.
what I would do is I signed up for about five different things. As you see, like all this stuff behind my name, I signed up for five
Yes.
different things, and I just kind of every took me about 2 weeks to finish it. So every 2 weeks, I would start another course and I would just get done what I needed to get done.
Mm-hmm.
But the cultural considerations of Black women, Black mortality, Black infant mortality, it was important for me to connect with a group that was going to also nurture that side of my business because 99.99999 of my clients are women of color. So that was important to me to have that influence as well.
Thank you. I'm hoping people tune into our YouTube channel, because in addition to this podcast, we are going to talk a little bit more about the services and what you do as a doula and the impact it has on our community. So please tune in. I'm just going to put a plug here now.
Yes.
So we will have more on that. But in terms of the business side of things, what would you say is the boldest move you've made since starting?
Oh goodness, I know that easily. The boldest move was recognizing my worth and charging it.
Wow, that's huge.
That was so hard.
Mhm.
Before, all this internet and all this imposter syndrome and all these fancy names for stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
I had imposter syndrome big time. So I definitely believe that I am intelligent and capable. I also at times am in my head like, absolutely not. You cannot do that. What are you doing? Who's gonna pay that?
But what switched for you? Like, what changed to make you realize your worth and to actually take action?
Mentorship helps big time, and then just really honing more in on my craft. So, from being a nurse, continuing education is something that's very important. And then, same thing with this. I started joining more affiliations, evidence-based birth, VBAC facts, just getting into more reading and listening to podcasts and things of that nature, and educating myself more about the birth world because it's always something, and things are constantly changing and just
Mhm.
really realizing what I bring to the table, like being able. And I will say I probably just recently fully realized this,
Mhm.
maybe a few months ago, but really understanding what do I bring to the table, not just as a childbirth doula and postpartum, but the fact that I am a registered nurse. So you
Mhm.
literally have a nurse in the room that has
Right.
no ties with the affiliation that you're birthing in. That's
That is
major.
so valuable. From experience, I can tell you that
Thank
is
you.
so valuable. And I would just say here, we'll probably talk a little bit more about this later. But I will say I told you before that I would not give birth again without a doula in the room.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know now, I would encourage anybody to get a doula. No matter who else is in the room with you, get a doula.
And I would say the same, honestly. If I was going to have another baby, I would have a doula. Somebody would have to doula the doula because
Mm-hmm.
it's just nice to have an extra, not even just set of eyes, but just an extra care person for you and your partner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really nice.
And somebody who knows what's going on. Yeah, we'll talk about it some more. So tune in
Yes.
for that other conversation. So let's stick on the business side for now. What does your team look like? Is it just you? Do you work with other people? What does that look like for you?
I am an army of one. So I'm solo and operating the business, and I had like a breakdown last week, and I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Uh-huh.
it is so challenging being the arms and the eyes and the ears and the brains of the business, doing administrative things of that nature. I had went out earlier and I did some postpartum work that day, so physically, doing things. But I love what I do, so that makes it all worth it at the end. I truly
Mhm.
don't feel like I never leave a client feeling like, oh my gosh. I might leave the house like, oh, tough day, let me get some coffee, but I always come back feeling full.
So, we were talking just now about your team, and I was just wondering in terms of accounting and even the admin stuff for me, that is a big part of business, right? If you go into business to do what you love to do and you don't necessarily want to handle all the other stuff. So I'm just wondering, what do you have in place for handling admin or accounting or anything like that?
I currently do not have anything in place. Admin wise, I use Square to generate my invoices.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking into HoneyBook, just thinking about putting everything all in one spot. So many people say they love HoneyBook. I've been on the platform. I'm really not crazy about it, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. So maybe I'll find something similar. So I use Sign Now for my contracts,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have an intake form that I just created on Google Drive, and a few documents like welcome info for childbirth, postpartum, and then my prenatal resources. I just did those in like a Word doc. So I
Mm-hmm.
am managing well for right now, but I would love to have something where I just click a button and everything just kind of goes out at once rather than me having to go to each of these platforms.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. And actually, that was one of my challenges starting off. I'm like, what software do I use? Is there something
Right,
I can use for automation? And I've actually been speaking to some people about trying to put together resources where people who are starting out, we can kind of show them the systems that do work, have them see how that works, actually going through the workflow with them. Because for me, that was my biggest hurdle.
right,
And then there is also what you call there's a learning curve when you do get on the system. Now I'm here, what do I do?
right,
So I'm actually helping a client now actually transition over, and it's difficult because change is difficult. I keep reminding him, trust the process. This is going to be so good at the end. You will realize how much you put in all this work up front, but at the end you're gonna be so happy. You'll have more time with your family.
yes.
Glad that you're thinking about all of that and processes. And that's something we can also talk about some more after, just to.
Yes, I was thinking that. Like, I would definitely love to talk about that with you because time with family is super huge for me because of what I do,
Mhm.
because I'm away sometimes at a birth 24 hours, however many hours at a time. Yeah, that's really important.
Yes, great, great. Yeah, and that's the thing, we go into business because we love what we do, right? But then we want to be able to still have time for other things that we do love, even more like family. So we don't want them competing with each other. We want them to work together. And for me, that is the sweet spot. Since starting the podcast, I've realized that is probably something I should do more of, like just help out with processes and as I develop it myself, because for me it's work in progress. So I'm learning as I go. So I'm happy to share the knowledge that I gain. And I know we're talking here about some of the struggles we face in terms of the administration and so forth. Are there any other struggles that you've faced in business that you'd like to point out?
I am thinking, to be perfectly honest with you, my business journey has been very, very smooth. Don't get me wrong. I do have setbacks. I do have setbacks, but it's been very smooth in the sense that somehow or another I just end up in the right place at the right time. I end up talking to people, and I feel like it's God because I'm not that, certainly not from me or anything that I'm doing, but meeting the right people, coming across the right opportunities, or somebody might just send me a message. Hey, I saw that you're a doula in the Plainfield area. I wanted to talk to you about breastfeeding. It's National Breastfeeding Awareness Month or whatever. I've had so many opportunities just kind of come to me to
Mm-hmm.
where I wasn't even looking for them. It's just, I just call it alignment. And it was just like more and more confirmation for me, like, keep going, keep going, keep going, because never in your life has this happened for you before. But now, you're at the point where you have niched down and you are like, everything is just kind of coming in on its own. So it just felt right. It felt very good to be in that spot.
And it tells to me, listening to you, it tells me something about what you do and the value that you bring and the fact that it is something that is needed.
It is.
I didn't even know about doula services, but when I found out, I realized, oh my goodness, everybody should have a doula. This is
Yeah.
very important, especially in the Black community. I really think it's such a it's I'm so glad that you're doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit just now. You blossoming in business, and that's the other segment we were going to get into. So let's get into it. What does success look like for you?
Okay, so success initially, I believe I set a goal of 10 clients for year one. So I exceeded that. By the end of year one, I had 15.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Year two, I said, okay, I would like to, let's double that. But specifically year two, I said, you know what? I would like to double my my gross from last year, which I ended up doing that in my second year. So this is year three that I'm in now. So I did 15 births the first year, 25 births the second year, and I'd say doubled, not quite, not triple, but maybe doubled and a half my income. And this third year, my goals are not so much tied to numbers this year.
Mhm.
I just have some things that I want to accomplish for myself. So you had mentioned me being a certified breastfeeding counselor. I really would love to sit for the international board certification for lactation this year. So I am in the process of working on that. That test is in September. And then also I would like to, which I'm kind of figuring this out, but sneak preview. I would like to do something under the business of the RN doula. That is what I call myself. That's like my handle on everything.
Mhm.
So I would love to do something and coin that because I feel like it's catchy, people like it, and it's kind of like catching traction. I have some opportunities to do content creation for Pacify Health, and then also for Earth. Earth is a app. Basically, it's like Yelp, and they allow you to share your experiences about your birth. And
Mhm.
it's a place where Black and Brown moms can go to see, like, is this a provider that I want to use?
Oh,
Is this
wow.
provider culturally competent? So it's really an awesome up and coming app. And then Pacify is a app where your basically you can have it through your employer, you can buy it on your own, or Medicaid provides it. And so
Wow.
that's kind of like my way of giving back to the underserved populations. It's nice to be
Mhm.
able to work with Medicaid clients, and it's like virtual help. You call in, and just like we're having this conversation face to face, you have conversations. They can call in the middle of the night, hey, my baby's crying, I tried X, Y, and Z, and it gives them real time access to a doula.
Oh, that's really good. I'm really glad, and I will definitely be asking you more information about those resources so that I can include it in the show notes because I think that's so important for people to have.
It really is.
Yes. So it has been great having you, but we're closing out now. We're to the end of the podcast.
That was so quick.
I know the time has gone by so quickly. That shows we're having fun, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for
Oh,
having me.
thanks. Yes. But before we actually close out, I like to ask, three practical tips that you'd like to share with someone who is looking to start right now.
Three practical tips. I'm going to say one, research your industry. That is
Mm-hmm.
something that I did not do. But research your industry. Understand who is your target audience. I used to always say, I don't have a target audience. I am
Mhm.
just, I'm relatable to everybody. And while that's all
Mhm.
well and good, and I
Mhm.
am, but you do want to have a target of people that you're trying to reach, because that better helps you understand how to cater your services and really how to niche down so that you stand out in your area. So I
Mhm.
would definitely say mentoring. But when I say mentoring, like you said, a lot of us go into it and we already know what we're doing. So you could even put the mentoring for your specific field kind of on the backboard. If you're somebody that doesn't have business under your belt, get a business mentor.
Mhm.
That's really important. And then you can kind of start looking into those things. I would also say get out of your own way.
Mhm.
Like, just step aside because you're in the way. I guarantee it. Nine
Mhm.
times out of 10.
I can relate.
Yeah. And last but not least, start the business. Like, just start the business.
Mhm.
I mean, it's what I did. Start it. If it's something that is placed on your heart to do,
Mhm.
start it. And honestly, your gifts make room for themselves. Like, they really do.
Thank you. Very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And part of what we're doing with the podcast is to create community, and we try to connect amazing guests like yourself with these persons who are listening. And one way we try to do that is encouraging one-on-one interactions. So I would like to ask if you'd be open to having, like, providing some time for someone who would like to contact you.
Absolutely. I'm an open book because people have helped me. So you just pass it on.
Okay, and how can we reach you?
So I can be reached at my website, www.iamchoosingjoy.net. It was just revamped, so I am super proud about my website. Also, I'm on social networks. I'm on TikTok. I am on Instagram at the underscore RN doula. I'm on LinkedIn under my name. Actually, it might be under Choosing Joy. So LinkedIn under Choosing Joy. I'm on Facebook under Choosing Joy. I'm on Pinterest under VRN Doula as well. So I'm kind of keeping everything in continuity, but that is where you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And you've added a lot to, a lot of value today with all that knowledge that you've shared. So thank you so much, and talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Begin, Build, Blossom, Your Business Journey, a CME Accounting LLC podcast. Please subscribe and be on the lookout for our next episode. If you'd like to share any feedback with us, please email us at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com.